Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today's video is for grade 9. I am going to teach Unit 5 poem Daffodils written by William Wordsworth. Page number is 51 of textbook. It is basically a lyrical poem of 4 stanzas. So first of all, we will discuss the objectives of today's learning. Today, you will be able to learn about the poet and recite the poem. We'll learn new vocabulary and we'll also learn about the figurative language and how to compose a summary, and we'll how to write a paraphrasing of the poem, and we'll also learn moral lesson of the poem. Now we will talk about poet. His name is William Wordsworth. He is a well-known poet of nature. He is true worshipper and an ardent lover of nature. He takes nature as a teacher and as a preacher. In this poem, he has depicted healthy, purifying, and enduring impacts of nature on human mind and heart. Basically, the poem is about some moments in our life that we replay or recall in our memory, images to which photographs or videos cannot do justice because they cannot capture our emotions or feelings. So in this lyrical poem, poet has captured both the images and feelings concerned to a special moment in his life. Here in this picture, you can see the pictorial presentation of this poem, beautiful daffodils beside the lake. Here are some new vocabulary for you that is used in this poem. After knowing their meanings, you will be able to easily understand the poem. The first one is fluttering. It's mean moving in the air, glee, joy or happiness, host, in a large number or a group, jocund, happy, twinkle, shine with a light, pensive, thoughtful, but here in this poem it's considered as a sad mood, solitude, pleasant, loneliness. So student, let's recite the poem with proper intonation.
I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils.
Let's discuss the verses in simple language. The very first stanza of the poem, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high or vales and hills. The poet describes his loneliness. He is comparing his loneliness, his emotion, to an isolated cloud broken off from the rest as he roams around, walking over valleys and hills. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Here the poet describes stumbling upon a large crowd, thousands of daffodils. He notices them dancing in the breeze. The breeze is allowing them to move. Therefore, it seems like they are dancing in breeze. The next stanza continues as the star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretch in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. The poet is comparing the mass of stars in the night sky to the large quantity of daffodils before him. He saw thousands of daffodils, and it appeared as if they are infinite. 10,000 I saw at a glance, tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. The poet emphasizes the amount of daffodils he can see. He uses the word sprightly here, which means lively, full of energy. But sprightly comes from the word sprite. A sprite was a Greek fairy, which is inhabited of nature. So the poet uses this word subtly as if almost describing the daffodils as lively, spirited fairies. The waves beside them dance, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. The poet now describes the waves dancing along with the daffodils, but the daffodils appear to be happier than the waves, and they therefore outdid them with happiness. A poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. The poet shows that his loneliness has disappeared, has changed into happiness and gay because of his company. Here, his company, his friends are waves and daffodils. He is referring to the daffodils and the waves as being his companions, his friends. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. The poet explains that even though he was amazed and loved watching the daffodils, he did not think he acknowledged the scene show that was before him. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, the poet tells us that he usually lies on his couch in a vacant blank, disinterested, pensive, sad, in a sad mood. However, pensive usually refers to the thoughts of sadness. Therefore, when the poet lies on his couch, he is usually in a blank state or quite sad. They flush upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. The poet describes that when he is unhappy, the memory of the daffodils flashes across his field of vision and bring him happiness. The memory is his and his alone, and therefore it's joyful in a way because it is his memory alone. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. So whenever the images of daffodils is displayed in his memory, in poet's memory, it makes his feeling of loneliness disappear, just like when he first saw them. His heart matches the same happiness of daffodils and dances along with them. Okay, students, William Wordsworth has used lots of effective tools in this poem, but we will highlight basic techniques according to your level. First one is personification. And the second one is simile, metaphor, and rhyming scheme. Actually, these are literary techniques or effective tools to make poets' work remarkable. So I'll explain the first, that is personification. When poet gives human qualities to non-human things. I have taken the examples from the poem. I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Basically, the crowd word is connected with human being, a large number of human being. But here, poet has used this word for daffodils. So he is inwardly assigning the qualities of human to non-human object, daffodils. The second one is tossing their heads and dancing. Okay, again, poet has given the human quality to non-human things. Actually, the tossing heads and dancing, both actions are related to human beings. But here, poet is giving these quality to daffodils. Here is another strong example of personification. And the next is, but be gay in such a jocund company. As I have already told you, the meaning of jocund company, it means energetic company of friends. But here, he is not talking about the human beings. He is not talking about his human friends. He is talking about his jocund company, that is the company of daffodils and the company of waves also. The next literary technique is simile. When poet compares two nouns by using words as or like. Here are some examples from the poem. Lonely as a cloud. Lonely as a cloud, the very first verse of the poem. Poet is saying that he is lonely. He is comparing himself with a cloud by using the word as. Similarly, continues as the stars that shine. Again, poet is comparing stars with daffodils, the clusters of stars with the clusters of daffodils. Metaphor. When poet compares two unlike objects without using the word as or like. Examples. They stretch in never-ending line. Poet is directly comparing the situation that is in the sky. Where are the stars? Where is the cluster of stars? That is never ending, with the cluster of daffodils. He is comparing the clusters of stars with the clusters of daffodils. The next technique is rhyming scheme. That is a more effective tool used by the poets for their work, to make their work remarkable. Rhyming scheme of this poem is mentioned here one by one according to the stanzas. In the very first stanza, the rhyming scheme is cloud, crowd, hills, daffodils, trees, breeze. Rhyming scheme means the words that are rhymes with each other, and these words come at the end of the verse. So in a stanza, when words of every verse that come at the end rhyme with each other, then we say that the poem has a strong rhyming scheme. Other stanzas rhyming scheme is mentioned here, you can see. Before going onward, I will explain the tone of the poet also. You have seen that in the very start of the poem, poet was saying that I am lonely like a cloud. Okay? He is comparing himself with cloud. He was saying that he is lonely, but at the end of the poem, his tone has changed. He is enjoying. He has a company. He has a company of daffodils and he is dancing with them. His heart is dancing with them. So in the very start, the tone of the poet was very sad and gloomy, but at the end, he is in a joyful mood. Okay, students, you have to learn a summary of the poem. So you will compose your summary according to this flowchart. First of all, you will discuss introduction of the poet in 2 sentences. Then theme of the poem, 4 to 5 sentences. After this, you will briefly discuss the poem's happening, 5 sentences, but in indirect language. Mostly poets use a first person pronoun and they write their poems in direct language. But you have to summarize the poem into indirect language. You will use the third person pronoun for the poet, he, or poetess, she. And the next step is discuss images of the poem or the tone of the poet in 3 sentences. And at the end, you will discuss the ethical idea of the poem. But before going onward, here I will give you a hint or a clue while writing a summary. Don't make tiny paragraphs. And don't write your summary in tiny paragraphs, in different pieces of paragraphs. You will compose a single paragraphs according to these features. Okay? And the next step is paraphrasing. So you will follow these key features while paraphrasing of any stanza. The first one is reference. The second is context, and the third is explanation. In reference, you will write down the name of the poem, name of the poet, or the location of the stanza also. This stanza is taken from the middle of the poem or the ending of the poem or from the beginning of the poem. And in the context, you will discuss just the main idea in 2 sentences. Don't try to exceed from the limitation. Next step is explanation. Discuss stanza in simple way but using an indirect language. I will discuss now the moral of the poem. The nature is full of beautiful sights, so we should visit these sites because they are the source to release the stress and tension. Here is the review of the lecture. Today we tried to learn recitation and discussion of the poem, use of different literary techniques, how to summarize a poem, and how to write a paraphrasing of a poem. And at the end we learn moral of the poem. Hope so this video will be helpful for you. I selected this unit because other 2 units are easy comparatively this. Actually, this would be more helpful for the new students. I've already shared easy and solved notes of English language, so this unit was not quite easy without any guidance. I'm hopeful that now you would easily understand it. You can ask for any query. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.